Hey, welcome back, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Hopefully, we're having an all right week out there so far. And again, had a little bit of a break. I went home for fall break and took some time off to enjoy with family. But we are back. And luckily, all things considered, things are pretty quiet out there. Now, we do have a couple areas in the tropics we're watching. We also do have this big time cold front that just swung on through for many of us. But because of that cold front, that's going to keep things, again, relatively quiet, although quite chilly and even some snow falling for some folks out there here over the next couple of days. I will tell you at the beginning of the video, I'm fighting a little bit of a cold or cough or sinuses or I don't know what it is, but either way, if I seem a little bit out of it or if I look like a train wreck, that's my excuse today. But yeah, other than that, if you haven't already subscribed, go ahead and do so. Like the video. Now is a great time while things are kind of slow to go ahead and subscribe. So when things pick back up, especially in the winter side of things, here throughout the next couple of weeks, as we start getting closer and closer to big winter storm season, again, being subscribed is a great way to stay up to date with those potential impacts and my forecast for those impacts. And the latest model guidance. All right, with that said, let's go ahead and jump on into things here. And we'll start with the tropics here. I just realized I forgot to pull up my drawing tool, so we'll do that on the fly here. But yeah, again, in the tropics, things are relatively quiet. You will note there are a couple areas that we are watching that probably jump out to you. One out here over the Atlantic. And it's kind of surprising, this area, just because it's not often that we get development this far out into the main development region of the Atlantic this late into the season. But conditions have been conducive enough for this little area out here to kind of be something worth watching. And some of the models have tried to pick up on development, although I will add, excuse me, the overnight models have really come back down in total kind of intensity forecast for this. Now, there are still a couple models that develop this and do bring it out, out generally towards Hispaniola, and that could bring impacts to you folks that way. But all things considered, not looking like too big of a threat. The other area to watch is down here into the Caribbean, and we are watching for potential development with that area as well. The good news, though, for at least the United States, is that doesn't look to impact the lower 48, and it could impact Central America, but even then, I think a relatively weak storm, if it does even get a name, that is, here through the next couple of days. And you can see all this still on the National Hurricane Center forecast for the next 7 days here. You'll notice that area out into the main development region of the Atlantic still running a 60% chance of development within the next 7 days. And then our little area here near Central America running a 30% chance of development within the next 7 days. So both areas worth mentioning, worth talking about, but nothing really jumping out as a big threat by any means with either one of these areas. All right. Now, our model data has been a little bit delayed for whatever reason, so this might, jump around a little bit time-wise, and we'll have to use some older models here in a second as well. So I do apologize about that, but again, luckily it's happening during a slower period than a busier one. Either way, though, here we go. Next 7 days or so in the Atlantic. This is tomorrow afternoon. And obviously the areas to watch are going to be into the Caribbean and then into the corner of your screen here. But I'm going to kind of breeze on through this because you'll notice really not a lot happening. Now, we do get some area of low pressure trying to develop into the Caribbean, may try to become a named storm. We do also have that disturbance that comes out of the main development region of the Atlantic here. But again, struggling to get its act together, struggling to really gain a foothold. And again, just kind of this weak, broad spin that moves on through Hispaniola, brings some rain. Same story for Central America, a weak spin, maybe a tropical depression or storm that makes landfall this coming weekend. But other than that, we've got a big shield over the southern United States. You'll notice this giant area of high pressure here. This is really keeping all the tropical activity to the south through the Caribbean and then through Hispaniola and the islands of the Caribbean. So either way, Florida, Texas, Louisiana, the entire Gulf Coast, the southeast coastline, nothing happening here really over the next 7 days or so, or really the next 10 days. And by that point, we start getting into late October, and we're running out of hurricane season left. So good news, if we're lucky, there is a very distinct possibility we do go the rest of the year without any direct impacts from the tropics to the lower 48. And that obviously would be great to see and something that we would hope for. All right, that was the GFS. Let's take a look at the European model. And again, just going to kind of breeze on through this. And here's why. Again, not a lot happening. This is this coming Friday. You'll notice we do have these areas to watch still. There's area 2, this is area 1, or area 1, area 2, however you want to look at it. But either way, you'll notice nothing strong popping up. We don't even really have a tropical depression or storm. Definitely don't have a hurricane by any means, and still just have these big, broad areas of spin. Now, the area to the north tries a little bit harder to get its act together by this coming weekend over the southern Bahamas, and you'll notice on the European model gets closer to doing it, but even then, eventually gets pulled northward and out of here by the 10-day time frame or so. Now, I will show you just out of transparency, I'll show you the H-Warp model. Let's see if this is that's the wrong storm. Let me get the right one here. Now, this is the run from last night. So again, this is kind of old data. We're still kind of having some lag in some of the model output, but the H-Warp does create a stronger storm here for our Caribbean or our mid-Atlantic system. And this is this coming week, and you'll notice we do have a hurricane just north of Puerto Rico on this model, and then eventually moves into the Dominican Republic as a hurricane this coming Saturday. Again, here's the center of the storm. Here's kind of the coastline of Hispaniola. So I'll show this to you just out of, transparency, and to say it's not impossible for this to become something bigger, but right now, this model is an outlier, and most of the models keep this relatively weak. But again, I'll show this to you just so you know there is an outside shot this does become a bigger deal, but right now, I'd say it's a pretty low chance, and you'll kind of see why here. If we take a look at some of our ensemble data, these are our European ensemble members. You'll notice, again, some of them do develop this, but most of them are weak. Most of them keep this north of Hispaniola and then kind of curve this back out to sea at the end if it does develop. As for our Caribbean area, again, just a weak mess moving into Central America there through portions of Honduras, Guatemala, and into the Yucatan Peninsula and even down into Belize. So again, not really a United States problem. Not to say that these people don't matter down here. Obviously they do, and that's why I'm showing it in the first place. But again, even for you folks, outside of rainfall, not a very big threat. These are the GFS ensembles, more for the Caribbean system, but still not really showing much of significance out of either area to watch. Alrighty, let's talk about the lower 48 and what's going on back home here. And again, not really a lot happening. You'll take a look at satellite here, and this is that big time cold front that swung through yesterday. Still a couple showers left over down through South Florida, specifically through the Keys. But other than that, we're really just getting kind of a big time northwest flow event. All of this cold air running over the Great Lakes. And we've had some lake effect snow, grapple, and kind of rain snow mix even into the Chicago metro this morning. As again, you'll notice we're getting that flow off the lakes. So it's getting to that time of the year. All these pockets of cold air that move over these warm bodies of water, that's creating a lot of lift and instability. And you can even see some clouds. In fact, if I switch this to the visible, let's see if I can find it here on the fly. Yeah, you can see even this cloud cover coming off of our northern lakes, Lake Superior up here. Getting plenty of cloud cover as that instability moves over it. Also noticing this kind of pocket of clouds moving on through portions of the Kentucky and Tennessee area, back even through the Ozarks. This is an area that is producing a little bit of precipitation here and could even bring some mountain snow as far south as the Smoky Mountains this evening. So we could see some snow leachage up that way. Now, not enough to cause really any travel impacts, and unfortunately, we already have so many travel impacts in North Carolina just due to what Helene did that this isn't really going to exacerbate the problem, and none of this will really stick to the roadways. But some grassy areas, some tops of trees could definitely get a quick dusting of snow in some areas overnight tonight. And we even saw that last night through portions of the Northeast, the interior Northeast, which I talked about in my last video on Friday, I believe is whenever that was. So again, pretty quiet, but definitely feeling chilly, feeling like fall, feeling kind of a little bit more like you would expect it to this time of year. We'll take a look at radar, watches, warnings, and advisories. Yeah, all these dark blue areas, these are freeze warnings in effect for very cold temperatures expected overnight, and then frost advisories, for those areas in the more baby blue. So just goes to show you a lot of cold air working through. And again, like I talked about, this lake effect precipitation ongoing today. I mean, this is a pretty impressive band coming off some of these lakes here. This one, Lake Michigan, getting a pretty good band moving into the Chicago area. Again, we did have some reports of some grapple and some snow and some rain kind of all mixing together with some of this. Again, it is very cold above the surface, so that's not really melting all the way down by the time it hits the ground level. But again, not really bringing any travel impacts. Seeing the same thing into the UP of Michigan. I know I got some viewers up there. Let me know what you're seeing fall out of the sky here, especially towards the Marquette area. And kind of surrounding areas here on the north shore of the Upper Peninsula, getting some of that lake effect precipitation. Same story for the northern kind of peninsula of Michigan itself, seeing some lake effect precipitation. Same story back through Ohio, Pennsylvania. New York getting some lake effect, and then even down into portions of the Virginias getting some of that. Now, most of this you've seen over Kentucky is not really hitting the ground, but what this is likely is snow, only a kilometer or two above the surface, just melting and evaporating probably more than melting on the way down to the surface. So, interesting stuff. Again, a sign of changing seasons, a sign of cooler air, definitely as we get further on through October. All right, now this is what's leading to this big setup is we have this big time trough, this very positively tilted trough that is swinging on through the country, bringing a big time pocket of cold air through much of the region from the northeast down through the Ohio River Valley and even down into the southeast. You'll notice is swinging on through. This is bringing a lot of that lake effect precipitation, that northwest snow event or rain event, even depending on your elevation. Unfortunately for our winter weather fans, it's only going to last so long. And by the time we get to this weekend, we're going to get a real 180 in the pattern. You'll notice all that blue leaves, and we've got a big time ridge that flexes its muscles east of the Mississippi here. That's going to warm things back up, but at the same time, a big time trough dipping out west. So right now we have trough in the east, ridge out west. By this weekend, ridge in the east, trough out west, as that meridional flow kind of switches it up on us a little bit here, and again, kind of 180s. But that will lead to some impactful weather this weekend, I think. And into early next week. Obviously, above average temperatures back in the forecast through the east, but I am watching for severe weather potential here on the diverging side of this trough. We could see an uptick in some of that fall weather, some of that fall season severe weather, which we haven't seen a whole lot of this year, but this could definitely do it for us through portions of the southern plains, and we'll take a look at that here in just a moment. But really, that's kind of what we're looking at over the next week. All right, let me time this out for you here, kind of rainfall and future radar over the next couple of days. Now, this afternoon, again, a lot of that lake effect precipitation kind of working on through, and even some of that frontal precipitation at the same time here. We do have, looks like a little bit of a short wave in here that could be leading to some enhanced precipitation. But again, just a whole lot of energy flying around, a lot of that precipitation kind of getting enhanced due to that. And by the time we get to overnight tonight and this evening, again, widespread showers and snow showers through the east. Through the interior northeast mountains, snow showers likely up into upstate New York, northern Vermont, and New Hampshire. Mainly rain showers into the southeast, but into these higher elevations of the Smokies, this will be some snow that does fall. So again, kind of the first snow of the year, even if it's not really enough to, go enjoy by any means, but it'll be very pretty. It'll be fun to see. And still kind of this lake effect precipitation off of the Great Lakes continuing through the day today into tonight, again, bringing some of that impactful weather. Excuse me, again, like I said, I'm fighting something over here, but we get into overnight tonight, more of the same. The whole kind of pattern continues, and by the time we get into tomorrow morning and afternoon, I do think some of the lake effect precipitation will die down slightly, but still seeing some of that lingering here through Ohio, Pennsylvania, and New York, seeing some of that lake effect ongoing. But the bigger story tomorrow, I think, will be low pressure developing off the southeast coastline, and that could throw some much-needed rainfall back inland, kind of along and east of the I-95 corridor through North Carolina, and even northeastern South Carolina there through the PD into the Myrtle Beach area. Could see a little bit of rain tomorrow morning and afternoon. And I'll tell you, if we move this ahead a little bit, this could have been a big-time snowstorm if it was about 2 months later here. We've got big-time high pressure here funneling in cold air at the surface. We've got low pressure just off the coast. Boy, oh boy, if it was December or January, we really could have seen some big-time snow totals out here near Rocky Mount, back down towards Fayetteville, Myrtle Beach, good old-fashioned I-95 snowstorm. But unfortunately, it's only the middle of October, and I'm sure by the time we get to the time it's cold enough, this pattern will cease to exist, and we'll just be talking about cold rain or something else. But anyway, just a little tangent there. But so that's the story there. Not much to talk about there, but you will notice, again, a good amount of rain possible through the Outer Banks tomorrow evening as this low pulls away and moves generally towards the northeast. But luckily, this will kind of skirt out to sea, and we won't really see too much impactful weather outside of North Carolina, coastal southeast Virginia, and maybe even northeastern South Carolina out of that storm system. All right, temperatures. Now, these are kind of this afternoon's high temperatures, and you'll notice we had kind of one front move through yesterday, but here's that second front that's kind of swinging on through. So this afternoon, it will be chilly. It'll be below average for a lot of us. Again, only getting into the 60s and 70s through portions of the southeast. But the real cold air is still locked back up into the Ohio River Valley and into the Midwest. But don't you fret, that's coming our way down into the southeast. Excuse me. We get into overnight tonight and into tomorrow morning. A very chilly morning. Lows down into the 40s and 30s for most of us. 40s through the Carolinas and Virginia, even down through much of the deep south. 30s through the Ohio River Valley. 30s into the higher elevations of Appalachia, even upper 20s potentially into the northeast, into some of those higher elevations. And then obviously a pocket of very cold air back here towards Iowa. Minnesota, Wisconsin, and kind of over much of the Midwest. And that's why we have those freeze warnings in place, again, due to that cold air. And that'll stay in place tomorrow afternoon. High temperatures maybe only into the 50s and 60s for a lot of us into the deep south. Highs only into the 40s through the northeast. And you folks out here in the coastal North Carolina and South Carolina, I mean, we might struggle to break the 50s tomorrow with that cloud cover and rain locked in. It's going to be a very chilly fall-like day, breezy conditions, dreary, rainy conditions, and just cold air in place for you folks out that way. So personally, this is very exciting for me to see. I'm a big fan of fall weather, fan of wintertime weather, and that's one of my favorite things to talk about. So definitely exciting for us. All right, what's going on out west? Well, we do have a new storm system that's going to kind of swing on through. So this is tomorrow morning. You will notice here, again, we do have a bit of a trough swinging on through. Like I said, the pattern's going to flip. So this is the start of that pattern flip. Again, some rain showers through the Pacific Northwest, some mountain snow showers tomorrow afternoon, maybe even some convective showers in nature here by the time we get to tomorrow evening. I wouldn't be surprised if some of these become severe here through portions of eastern Oregon and western Idaho. Going to need to watch out for that for sure. Definitely some lightning potential with that. And you'll notice just these convective rain and snow showers working on through for our overnight Wednesday and into Thursday through the Pacific Northwest. All right, so let's kind of move this through the rest of the week here. Again, we've got that front swinging on through right now. We'll move this ahead into Wednesday and Thursday. Here's our low pressure off the southeast coastline we talked about. Here's all of those showers into the Pacific Northwest we talked about. High pressure in place over the east, keeping things cool. And then another front kind of setting up shop and another low pressure developing out west is the pattern by the middle of the week. Now, we bring this further ahead into time, and you'll notice that big storm system out west gets its act together. A lot of mountain snow potentially there through really much of the Rockies by the time we get into this weekend. And then eventually a bit of a severe weather threat by the time we get even later into the weekend. Notice some of these rain and kind of just darker convective colors showing up on our map here through Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas. That combined with just the general placement of that low pressure does say to me we do have the chance of some severe weather here by the time we get into this weekend. And then that kind of merges with another storm system that pulls up north into Canada. And then we'll just kind of move this all the way out into time. And you'll notice this general pattern of storminess out west and dry, more fall-like weather in the east, although warming up in the east, I will add probably, will be the general theme that we are watching. Now, temperatures, again, this week, well below average through the east. This is Wednesday, this is Thursday, this is Friday, this is the start of the weekend, but you'll notice these above average temperatures working back into the forecast here through the plains. Again, that could help aid severe weather as we get some instability at the surface there. And again, those cooler temperatures in the east. But by the time we get to the start of next week, you'll notice the pattern flips. Much warmer east of the Rockies, cooler over the Rockies and out west. And then that could hold on for a while here, although we could still get shots of cold air that tries to work into the east. But overall speaking, again, the pattern is going to flip here for the long run. And that will be something that we absolutely will need to watch. Now, chances of severe weather, just the ingredients for it. I did want to show this going into the weekend. This is Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Notice again a flare-up of those ingredients for severe weather over portions of the southern plains, specifically West Texas, eastern New Mexico, up northward through the foothills of Colorado, Kansas, and Nebraska. Nothing from the Storm Prediction Center yet, but again, we're a ways away, so I do expect them to add some areas there. And you'll notice this chance for severe weather kind of hangs around through the plains for a little bit as this pattern flip generally locks itself in for a little while. So do need to watch for that second return of a severe weather season. Rainfall over the next 10 days here, it's going to be pretty dry into the east. You'll notice this big pocket of just dry air over the southeast, the mid-south, even up the Mississippi River Valley. I am slightly concerned that we could see some forest fire activity. My buddy Mitch West made a great point in one of his videos that we've got a lot of dead, tree limbs and trees in the southeast due to Helene. That's gonna provide something to burn on the ground here. And you're saying, well, Helene just dumped a ton of rain. Won't that keep things dry? It's been half a month, getting close to a month here by the time we get a week or so from now, from when Helene moved on through. So we've really dried out big time here, and this could lead to a forest fire concern. So just keep that in mind when you're burning anything in these areas that are not expecting rain for a while here. Definitely something to keep in note. But out west, a lot more rainfall and even snow into the mountains. Again, as that pattern flips with ridging in the east and troughing out west, that is what you would kind of expect with that general idea. Alrighty, folks. Well, hopefully you enjoyed the video. Again, was gone for a couple days, but that was planned and I talked about it. So if you missed the last video, again, I didn't just disappear off the face of the earth. But yeah, anyway, with that said, y'all have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday. Enjoy it out there, and I'll see you all tomorrow.